Training with rate of perceived exertion. What is rate of perceived exertion? Rate of perceived exertion is a method of determining the intensity of an athlete's effort during an activity. It's also known as RPE. So why does intensity in training matter? Studies show that humans adapt best to training that is varied, increased gradually over time, and also allows appropriate time to recover. Effort given during training sessions directly impacts all three of these components of successful training. Studies also show us that certain intensities are unsustainable for long periods of time. Because triathlon and duathlon are endurance sports, even at the shortest distances, athletes have to keep their intensity in check on race day if they want to finish strong and reach their potential. RPE is always based on a scale of physical markers that are observable by the athlete. For this application, we'll be using a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is the easiest possible activity. The athlete is not moving. A 2 is some movement, could go on for hours. 3 is slightly increased movement where it's easy to breathe and have a conversation. 4 is more moderate movement where you're able to talk, but you might not want to have a full conversation. 5 is still a moderate effort that feels sustainable, but you only want to give short answers to questions. 6 is a borderline moderate to hard effort, where you're starting to breathe a little heavily. 7, borderline uncomfortable, short of breath, but can still speak a sentence. 8 is an uncomfortable effort, where you're really pushing. 9 is high intensity, unsustainable for a long period of time, where it's hard to breathe and speak. And finally, 10 would be a max effort. You're unable to talk, you're out of breath, and the effort is unsustainable. It's very important to remember the markers on this scale and to review them if needed prior to exercise to make sure that you're getting the benefit of the session that you're doing. How to use the RPE scale in training. Before starting your training sessions, check to see what the prescribed RPE range is for the session. And if needed, double check the RPE scale to make sure you know what physical markers you should be looking for. And then check in on your effort frequently throughout the session. A tip is that it's almost always better to go a little bit lower on the RPE scale than a little bit higher. When updating your workouts post-training, be honest about how hard you worked, because this may impact how the app is able to calculate for future workouts. How to use the RPE scale in racing. Before your race, make sure you check to see what the prescribed RPE range is for each part of the race. It may be a little different on the swim than on the bike, and the bike may be a little different than the run. Double check the RPE scale if you need to determine appropriate effort level. And then it's very important to check in on your effort frequently throughout the race. We always say it's better to be more conservative towards the beginning of a race and to take risks towards the end. Finally, are there other ways to measure intensity? The answer is yes. Many endurance athletes prefer to use heart rate as a more objective measure of effort in their training and racing. The Playtri app offers heart rate training to users at no additional cost, and you can switch at any time. Watch our video on training with heart rate to learn more.